The gnashing of teeth over the east wing of the White House is just amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing how many people on the left and the media, and you heard the CBS News report about it, can they stop this destruction of this historical site? It's the east wing of the White House. If you've ever gone on a tour of the White House, you enter through the east wing. There's nothing there. The office of the First Lady, there's other offices there, and then there's the East Room, which is a small room, which is what they're going to add on to a big giant ballroom. I don't understand what the fuss is. It's an old building. The White House is old, and they've renovated it many, many, many times. Even after World War II, when they realized that this thing would not withstand a bomb, and they literally gutted the entire thing and rebuilt it from the inside out to make sure that it could withstand a bomb. And they added a bunker. This is the thing, and this is going to be shocking. The first president to ever live in the White House was not George Washington. It was John Adams. And when John Adams moved into the White House, there was no bunker. The room that in the movies where they take the president to, and I've never been in the bunker. I've never seen it myself. But in the movies, if there's an emergency, they got to grab the president and they rush him to an elevator and they go down to a bunker. Now, I don't know about the elevator because I don't know if the power goes out. They probably have a backup generator. It's the White House. I would imagine they've got a Generac or something. And they take him down to this bunker, and then they lock him in. Like there was this movie, Olympus Has Fallen, and it was stupid. It was dumb, but it was fun to watch. But, basically these terrorists take over the White House, and the president's in the bunker, and he's in the bunker with the bad guy, and one lone Secret Service agent has to save him. Anyway, there was no bunker when John Adams was there. It's changed a lot. They used to have sheep in the lawn. There wasn't a fence for a long time. Lincoln famously would greet visitors, so he would just sit in it. He would just wait, and people would come in. At one point, anybody could just walk in the White House. You just walk on in. Things have changed a lot. When I was in college, and I was interning there, I remember the day that they shot up the press room on Pennsylvania Avenue. Some nut with a gun. But back then, you could drive by it. Pennsylvania Avenue was open. It was great. You drive by the White House. You ever see some of the old movies of the White House, like The American President. It's hard to believe it's an old movie now. And there's scenes, and there's just, cars driving by. That was a thing. And then President Clinton signed an executive order to shut down Pennsylvania Avenue to traffic. I don't remember people screaming about that, but it was a big freaking deal that you could not drive by the White House anymore. People used to drive by, and they'd stop and they'd take pictures, and they would just, you'd go to D.C. with the family, drive by the White House. Over the years, the view of the White House has become increasingly eclipsed. It used to be a lot more open than it is now. And they started planting lots of trees. Or I don't know they were worried about people being able to take shots, so they put big trees up. So now there's not as many viewpoints at the White House as there used to be. And sometimes Pennsylvania Avenue is even closed to pedestrians, too. For example, when Patrick and I went for the Eagles game, or the Eagles reception at the White House that day, Pennsylvania Avenue was closed to foot traffic for extended periods of time because you have to take people from either West or East Executive Avenue. In this case with the Eagles, they had the buses all out front of East Executive Avenue, and the Eagles came out, so they shut down Pennsylvania, and they do this a lot, the foot traffic, which is a gigantic pain because it's a huge complex, and the Treasury building is part of the complex, and the Eisenhower Executive Office building is part of the complex. So if you need to get to the other side of the White House, for example, if you need to get to the South Lawn entrance and to go for an event, you got to walk all the way around to 16th Street and go down, or 17th Street, whatever it is, and walk all the way down to get over there. It's a gigantic pain in the neck. Wasn't always that way. People used to be able to get around a lot more freely. I don't like it. I just didn't hear anyone really complaining about it. Now, if you're going to complain about anything, I think the thing to complain about is the fact that the view has been so obstructed of the White House that to see it, you got to basically be on the southern ellipse, and there are a few spots on the fence line where you can take a really good picture of the rotunda and the Truman balcony and then if you are lucky enough to be on Pennsylvania Avenue on a day that it's actually open to pedestrians, there's a lot of spots you can take pictures on Pennsylvania Avenue of the White House. But if you want to get to the other side of the White House, that's a whole, I got to walk all the way around. And it's a big, but I just don't remember hearing a lot of people really complain about it. And I don't know if there was any outrage when they decided to fill in the swimming pool and make it into the White House press briefing room. I don't know if there was or not. I wasn't alive, but I think not. The outrage over what Trump is doing now, adding a ballroom and demolishing parts of the East Wing of the White House, which is the most underutilized part of the executive mansion. So you've got the White House, you've got the mansion, you got the White House, which was built when construction started, when John Adams became president. He moves into the White House. The British burn it down. So they had to rebuild the whole thing. So it's not even the original White House from the original White House. And they had other fires. And they had to tear the entire thing open to restructure it so that it could withstand the bombs and the technology changes of modern life. And they had to put in bulletproof glass, and they had to do all those security upgrades. I don't know if they've got rocket launchers on the roof. I don't know if they've got anti-aircraft missile defense on the roof. I've seen that in the movies. I don't know if it's true. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that the East Wing is the part of the White House that nobody really cares about. The West Wing, obviously, is kind of a big deal. You got the Oval Office there. You got the Roosevelt Room. You got the press briefing room. You got other rooms. When you go on a tour, you see parts of the mansion. You don't go to the residence, obviously. That's a very special invitation to go to the residence, as is the White House Situation Room, as is the mess, which Dr. Victoria Coates still owes me lunch in the White House mess. Those are very special places to go. Now, I've been to the Oval Office a few times. I've been in the White House press briefing room, and it's awesome. And I've done the tour. So I've seen the red room and the blue room and those other rooms. And I've been in the state dining room, the East room. It's just not that big. And they have these big events there, and you can't fit everybody. I've been in the Rose Garden. I think paving the Rose Garden, putting pavers down, was a good idea. I really do. I think that was a smart idea. I don't think there's anything. I don't know why anybody would really complain about that. Like, no big deal. You know, you got pavers there, so this way, if it rains, people's feet don't get all wet in this soggy grass. All right? So I'm just saying that because I think it's important to be said. But the East Wing of the White House itself, I don't think anyone really cares. I don't think anyone really, except for the left right now, which is absolutely 100% freaking out. Here's a montage Fox News put together of people in the media and the left losing their friggin' mind over the fact that Trump is renovating a part of the White House and adding in a ballroom. Take a listen.
To take literally a wrecking ball to the White House.
I can't.
It's grotesque. Just grotesque.
This is giving mob boss. But our tax dollars now, if he gets this $230 million, is going to be used to renovate a White House, which, by the way, he never intends to leave.
Let's call him the capo di tutto grifters.
Yes.
I don't care about that damn ballroom.
All right, so Madison/Monroe, 1809 to 1825, rebuilt after the 1814 fire, which was set by the British. They burned down the White House. Never forget, okay? Never forget. Then they added the South Portico. Teddy Roosevelt, 1901 and 1909, built the West Wing, created the Oval Office space. Truman gutted and rebuilt the interior and added the Truman balcony. I don't know how many people freaked out over that, but they gutted and rebuilt the entire White House because they had to, because we're now in the nuclear age. And they're realizing then, holy cow, this building, which was made in the 1800s, cannot withstand if there's a bomb that's dropped. So we gotta put in steel. We gotta put in steel beams and anti-nuclear beams. And I'm sure there's probably a more technical way to phrase that than anti-nuclear beams, but nevertheless, that's what they had to do. JFK did a historic restoration with authentic antiques. At the time, I remember this because I wasn't alive, but Jackie Kennedy went into the White House and felt like it was so dated. And I believe it was Time Life magazine, whatever it was, did a whole thing on Jackie Kennedy redecorating the White House to bring it up to modern times, to Camelot standards. And then, of course, Bush, post 9/11, security blast, windows, bunker, and the White House Situation Room. But that's the thing. I mean, Lincoln didn't have a sit room. They just all went into his office, and they would go into the various rooms of the White House and have meetings. And there was no bunker to take him to if, say, the Confederates had breached the White House. They couldn't have taken, they would have taken him to like a closet or something. There was no bowling alley. Lincoln did not roll. And not just on Seamus Chavez. Lincoln never rolled. There was no bowling alley in the White House. That was put in by Richard Nixon. Nixon put in the bowling alley. I don't remember the outrage over that. If I'm ever president, I'm adding a water park. I am. Babylon B joked about that today, about President Trump adding a giant water slide. But I would. I put in a water park. Kids can do the Easter egg roll, and then they can do some fun water rides. I think that would be nice. I mean, Obama put in a basketball court. Everybody lost their minds over that. Guy liked to shoot hoops. Good for him. He's president. Wanted to play some basketball. Here's the other thing too about this ballroom that's going to be built. Trump's not going to get to really enjoy it. I know the left thinks he's going to run for a third term, but he's really not going to get to enjoy it. What Trump is going to get to do is pass that on to all the presidents who come after him so that they can have these big, lavish events worthy of a White House in the 21st century. I just don't know what the big freaking deal is about this. I mean, if they had fire alarms, smoke detectors, and a sprinkler system when the British burned down the White House, never forget. And never forgive them. I'm sorry, but I get it. We're allies now. There was this whole World War II and whatnot, and the Brits have been there for us, and I get it. But I'm Italian, so you can forgive, but not really, and you can never forget. And I'm just saying, if I'm ever president, it's very possible I'm going to try to get revenge for that one, because revenge is a dish best served cold, like the food in England is best served cold, because it's terrible. I've never been. I've just heard that, and I believe it. I believe it. By the way, speaking of teeth, because the British, I'm just saying, Dr. Mike Veneria is the big story sponsor, and when it comes to complex dental surgery, you don't go to the closest dentist, you go to the best one. That's Dr. Mike. Schedule your free implant consultation today at 856-786-2020, 856-786-2020, or veneriadental.com. I'm just saying the Brits could use that. But if I were president, I might be over there, and I may just accidentally, push over a candle at, when Buckingham Palace or whatever it is. Be like, oops. Of course, it would go out promptly, and they'd be like, did you really just try to burn down the... I'd be like, well, now we're even. All right. Plus, they didn't have fire extinguishers back then. Yeah, I mean, if they did, they probably assume they would have used them. So, yeah, a lot's changed. There was an outdoor swimming pool that was put in at one point. It was President Ford who did that. Nobody lost their friggin' minds that there was a pool at the White House. Nobody cared. I don't think it's there anymore. So anyway, in this modern Trump era, we've got to find something to be outraged about all the time. Constantly, all the time. And I think part of the reason why nobody takes the left seriously anymore, why nobody takes Democrats seriously, is the fact that they find a way to freak out and lose their mind on a daily basis to try to come up with something that they're outraged about. Something. And you turn around and you go, really, like this is what you're upset about? We're adding a ballroom to the White House, it's not costing the taxpayers anything. That's what you're upset about? You're upset about that. With all the things that are going on in the world, that's what's got your goat, because Trump's doing it. If it was a Democrat doing it, they would be having all of these wonderful exposés on the White House and the history of the White House and how presidents and first ladies have renovated it. And they would be telling stories, and they would be showing everybody how beautiful and what wonderful this is and majestic this is. They would not be screaming that this is the destruction of the people's house. But this is the day and age in which we live. Here's CNN's Karen Finney. This is cut number 9 about the new White House ballroom and how grotesque this whole thing is. Cut 9.
Well, as I mentioned on this program a couple weeks ago, I think it's fairly grotesque to begin construction, just the optics of beginning construction on a grand ballroom at a time when the government is shut down, inflation is still high, costs are still high. We saw new economic indicators coming out today actually showing that middle and lower income Americans are falling behind in car payments, which is an early indicator. So I think it's, even if you believe that this was a good idea, I would say the timing is horrible. And look, personally, it was a little shocking to see those images, having worked in the White House. I mean, there's so much beauty and history in the East Wing. So it's sad to see that, that huge hole there. And I would just mention that some of the other things, the changes that Scott mentioned, those were additions. This is a subtraction, I guess, in an addition, but it really changes, I think, in many ways, what the people's house is supposed to be about, which is not necessarily a grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers, but it's about, the American people. So again, I just also think the construction timing is really just gross.
It's gross. It's just gross. It's gross and grotesque. All right, quick break as we continue here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHG. Jack Ciattarelli having a big event with law enforcement and some sheriffs. We'll tell you all about it. He was just at a diner with Congressman Byron Donalds. We'll be right back.